Good evening, Reds. This is Jarvis Cocker on Jarvis Cocker's Corner on MUFC Realist TV. Tonight we will cover the latest. We have a new recruitment director. That's the breaking news. We will talk about Dan Ashworth, VAR debate, coaching structure with Van Nistelrooy, René Hake, and the latest transfer rumors with De Ligt and Ugarte. So stay tuned and we will be back after the intro.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharply to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to...
Good evening, everybody. And I have to say, very late evening. We have seen Portugal beat Slovenia on penalties, and Costa. Wow, what a goalkeeper! Tom, did you see it? Okay, Tom is on mute. Well, I'm alone. Brilliant goalkeeper, 3 saves in a row. Ronaldo scored, Bruno Fernandes scored, and Bernardo Silva scored. So Portugal are through to the quarterfinals. It was a great game. A little bit boring, but it was a lot of things happening. And when Ronaldo missed that penalty, wow! The pictures, you saw him in tears. The whole world just fell down. So, but he got his revenge, and Portugal are through, so he still have a chance to win and be the GOAT again. We have a lot of people in the house. We have Wutinator coming in, Rebel Bakir, Madison, Alistair Dirks, Mr. C, Big Booty, Latina Hunter, big up. We have Gift Mutamba Lika, and Uncle Jimmy is in the house. Hello, Uncle Jimmy. I sent you a text. I hope you will jump on because we're a little short when it comes to pundits tonight. It will just be me and Tom, journalist one, doing the show because Stu couldn't do it. He had some work thing coming up. So that's just the way it is. So, yeah, we will talk about the latest news because tonight it was some breaking news from Fabrizio Romano, or I would say Ornstein came out, and The Athletic, that we have a new sporting director. If you give me 2 seconds, I will just find it and bring it on the screen. Because Manchester United working to appoint Christopher Vivell for the transfer window, and we are working to appoint him on a short-term basis with the summer transfer window. And let's see what's said here, and I will read the article. It's the latest step being taken by the Old Trafford club to build out their sporting structure under a new co-owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And Christopher Vivell has previously been employed by RB Leipzig and most recently Chelsea. And he has some expertise around talent ID and player recruitment. It's a 37-year-old German. He will bring knowledge of operating a multi-club model because we are going to have more clubs, maybe, not just Nice. It will be exciting to see what will happen. He will come in and work, and we heard today that Dan Ashworth is coming in directly and will start working immediately, and the structure seems to be falling in place just in time because now the window is open. We have heard a lot of rumors today. It was about the Ligt coming from Bayern, and we will cover that later. Tom, are you back? No, we don't have any Tom here. I will just remind you, everybody, smash the like, and if you haven't, please subscribe. I see Stephanie Griffith coming in already and says 19 likes, thumbs up. So everybody, if you haven't, hit the like and subscribe. Let's see. This guy Vivo, he said he has some key signings. Notable signings is Patson Daka, Haidara, Domenico Sloboslai, Adeyemi, and Sesko. And he's also been selling Dayton, Upamecano, and Haidara, and Naby Keita, all from the RB Leipzig time, and Sloboslai. And to Georgie Best, he have sold Alexander Sørloth and Brian Brobby, and Josko Guardiola, Angelino. So he has a lot of good track record, even Timo Werner and Benjamin Sesko, if I didn't mention him. So he has a lot of, he has a good track record, and he will be a great contribution to the team of Man United and the new structure. Until Tom comes back, I will just bring some questions in from the VAR room, because we will cover this new guy coming in as recruitment director. We have Thomas Svedjenås from Sweden. Big up. He say, Jarvis, what do you rate Europa Championship so far from a scale to 1 to 10? Any favorite moments yet? Well, I have to be honest, I haven't seen all the games. I'm busy working a lot of the time, so I only get to see the 9 o'clock game or the late night game. So for me, I think Denmark has been good, but not good enough. England has been dreadful. It's been dreadful watching Southgate. You know, he's gash, and everybody knows it with this talented team, and this is what he can get out of them, the players, sideways and backwards. It's terrible. Okay, Tom is back. Big up, Tom. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here, mate. Apologies about that.
Good.
Just had an urgent phone call, bro.
Yeah, it's okay. I just want to say hi to Duncan Bolito before we move on. The Badger is in the house and the show is ready to move on. So I just told the VAR room and the viewers about the new director of recruitment. Do you know anything about this guy?
Christopher Vivell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very good recruitment officer. He worked very well as a talent expert within the Red Bull Sporting Network. One of the things that I know from his time when he was at Salzburg or Leipzig, I can't remember which one it was anyway, he crossed over from between the two clubs, and he had a very good relationship with Ralf Rangnick, and that sort of talent ID persona of identifying players that fit a good profile for, say, the long-term future of a football club, he's very good at. He's had a hand in a lot of players' careers in that Red Bull network. Erling Haaland's probably the most high-profile one that you could say, from the Salzburg links and everything. That's what you talk about, the talent ID. The thing with Vivell, and even when he had his short tenure at Chelsea, and we'll probably get onto why he ended up leaving Chelsea in the end. I know a bit of the backstory behind it anyway, but he's a very good talent spotter and recruiter of players, but he does it very well on a budget. He doesn't blow money on players unless he's 100% sure of that player, effectively. And we've always said this with Manchester United, where we've spent 70-80 million pounds on a player, but either the fan base is just divided on it, or we can't understand why we're targeting that player for that much money if we don't think they're worth it, and we overpay for players. This guy, as a director of recruitment, will assess players based upon value asset, but also what they're going to bring in terms of the style of play. And I think Vivell, it kind of intertwines with all the people that we've brought in, Jarvis, to be honest with you. I can see him having a good connection with Barada in terms of the football and the business side of it, because as much as people will look at the guy and say he's a good recruiter of talent and players, he's going to have to understand player value, and that's where Barada will come into play in terms of negotiating for players. So effectively, with Jason Wilcox again as well in the technical director role, he's got a good set of eyes in terms of talent ID as well. We know about a lot of the young players that they work with City. He had a brilliant relationship with Pep Guardiola and trying to transform all of the different teams, so the youth team to play exactly as the men's first team and and so forth. Like I said, they're making a lot of changes, Jarvis. That's the one thing that I will say. They are making a lot of changes, and I think it's changes that we've asked for God knows how many years. But the thing that I like about this appointment in particular is, again, it's one of them that it's not been drummed up for weeks and weeks. It's literally just come out of the hullabaloo, and Manchester United have just gone about the business and got it done. We're negotiating for all these things. Like we said, and I know we'll get on touch onto the Ashworth thing as well, but that saga had gone on for so long, and we dragged Newcastle to the PSR deadline for last night, and then they just bit and said, well, we'd rather let it involve in last year's accounts for PSR than this year, because it's not going to benefit us as much as if it would be for last year's accounts. So they can't make as much of an impact. So they've had to take a cut price fee for Ashworth. Otherwise, they'd have to go through the court system and, again, the arbitration and everything. You don't know which end of it you'll come out of. Whereas at least you can guarantee you're going to get something, rather than at the end of the arbitration you might get nothing. So, but no, from what I've heard about Vivell and everything, Jarvis, and that, I think he's done quite. I think he's got a good CV around him. He's worked with a lot of influential people in football. Ralph Rangnick, I think, is one of the big embodiment ones. To be fair, I think it was a little bit hard done by at Chelsea. In particular, a lot of the younger players that Chelsea bought, he instilled a network in that football club with the South American sort of connections that he had through Salzburg and stuff, and also bringing players from, say, France as well. He's got good connections with a lot of French clubs. So when they brought Badiashile to Chelsea, for example, it was a decent signing. And Kunku was a player that he knew from the Red Bull system, and he was able to negotiate him to come over from Leipzig to Chelsea. So he's had some good connections with a lot of players that I think a lot of people would rate nowadays anyway, or did rate when they were on the up at clubs that we would have probably wanted to take them from. But no, I think he did get a bit hard done by at Chelsea, to be honest with you. But Winstanley and Stewart, the two directors from Brighton that they brought in afterwards, they'd worked as a pair. They basically ran the Brighton recruitment department on their own. So you've got two people that know each other and have worked basically side by side for years, coming into a football club with somebody who I think in Vivell has a lot more credentials at a high level of football than those two do put together. But Chelsea, at the end of the day, and Ed Barley and Bowley, they decided on Stewart and Winstanley's the better duo, should we say, or like two minds is better than one. I think they have made a mistake in letting him go. But again, Jarvis, he's out of work. He's got a decent set of eyes on him in terms of talent ID. He understands the landscape of football. I think he's gone in and around Europe. He's networked a little bit now. Chelsea, Salzburg, Leipzig. He's got a bit of a network surrounding him. He's got connections within France, different leagues and different clubs and everything. So I think he's useful. Even if it is just a short-term solution, I would look maybe if you can offer him a role long-term. Give him the head of recruitment role. We've been saying about this that we're going to supposedly look for one. We've got a director of recruitment. Yeah. Give him the whole recruitment department then, if need be. But I think he's smart.
It's very interesting. Why do you think it's short term? Do you have any other jobs lined up in the future, maybe, or do you believe so?
I think it's short term because the way that the Ashworth thing panned out, do you know something? I actually don't think Manchester United expected to get him as early as they have done. I think it's a shock to them as much as it is to anybody else. Obviously, they've had to negotiate a deal, but they've said to Newcastle for well over 2 months now, we've got a price in mind that we'll pay. We're not going to pay £20 million. You're in cuckoo land if you think we're going to go over that budget. They've stuck to the price, Jarvis, and apparently they've got him for a lot lesser of the price than what Newcastle did. They've almost cut it into 3/4, never mind half of the £20 million. So it's a good bargain deal to get him out of there.
Yeah.
I think they brought Vivell in almost as a safety net. I think this has been cooked up a while. I don't think they've just phoned him up tonight and said, "Do you want to come and work for Man United for this summer?" I don't think they have done. I think it's been cooked up a while, and I think this was almost like a safety net of, well, if we don't get Ashworth in to lead the recruitment this summer, let's get somebody in who might do it in the short term for us, but who's got experience, who's got all the credentials of it, and also we know we can trust to run this department for us until we get who we want in the end, which is Ashworth. But again, I think Jarvis, we've got so many of these football influential people now in the club. We used to have so many bankers in this club now. Edward Wood, Richard Arnold, Matt Judge, all these people. You've suddenly replaced all those people with Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, Christopher Vivell, Dan Ashworth obviously is now in the door as well.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting some of them. Jean-Claude Blanc's influential for in football. Like there's 5 there. That's football people. 5 football people replacing 5 bankers or whatever. Like it's a start for a new revolution. But at the end of the day, the only thing that we can sit here and say now is there isn't an excuse to say that Manchester United can't. That Sir Jim Ratcliffe can't be under the magnifying glass now because he's completed everything that he wanted. He's got the people that he wanted in. So we now need to start seeing some results. If he wanted to have until he got Ashworth and people in, which was going to take a bit longer, that's fine. Some people might give him the time. I personally wasn't going to because I thought, well, he's got a couple of the people that he wants there already. I don't think one more person is going to make that much of a difference, especially when you do a bit of backgrounding into Dan Ashworth and stuff. He's not actually a talent merchant. He doesn't recruit players, Jarvis. He just assesses players' performance and whether they're good enough at a higher level, and he puts the right people in the right places. That's what I know about Ashworth anyway. But again, like I say, I think it's smart. I think they've networked the guy and they've got somebody in there who they trust, clearly. And again, at the end of the day, when I look at someone like Vivell, he's got the CV that I think a lot of people would say he's good enough to work for Manchester United. And the one thing that I think embodies really what Ratcliffe wants, he wants to keep this multi-club model. I don't necessarily think he wants to sell Nice, but I think if he's pushed to do it, Jarvis, I think he's going to end up doing it. I do think he wants this multi-club model, and I think Vivell's experience that he has with the Red Bull Group, where that is a multi-club ownership. You have Salzburg, Leipzig, New York Red Bulls. We've got a couple of different clubs that all network players around one another. And I think his experience in how that works and handles as well would be good, because you could almost use Nice as that benchmark to send young players there who might shine, and Nice will get the benefits of it because they'll have talented youngsters there. But also, they can use clubs like Lausanne if maybe you don't think a player's maybe at that level for Manchester United right now. Or they can bring players from South America or whatever, ship them there and put them on the conveyor belt like Manchester City do. But again, it's the whole package that you get with the guy that I think makes it more appetising. And that's why I think at the end of the day, having all these football people in this football club can only be a good thing. Because if it was just we had a sporting director, Jarvis, I'd be a little bit concerned because he's one person. There's a lot of pressure there. You've got about 4 or 5 different people now who are going to almost loop to loop, office to office next to each other, and they understand football, Jarvis. That's the one thing. They will all sing off the same hymn sheet. You can't put Christian Vivell, in an office next to Ed Woodward and think it's going to click. It's not going to. Put him in a room next to someone like Barada who understands football, the business, finance and everything. I can see that there's going to be something good there. And listen, clubs get it wrong sometimes with recruitment. I understand that. Nobody's ever perfect.
No.
But
Yeah.
the guy's record, from what I've seen anyway, at the highest level, he's got a more success rate than he does a failure rate. And that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. Today we saw this coming out from Florian Plettenberg. He knows a lot of German football, and it's quite interesting what he says. But see, just want to find it here. Here it is. Understand it's a done deal. Christopher Vivell is set to join Manchester United with immediate effect. So basically, it's coming in as of tomorrow. We will start working, and they call it director of recruitment. Is that can we interpret it to be the same as head of recruitment?
I think it's pretty much. The only thing that I'd say is a director of recruitment role. It fits a more short-term contract, like he's on, or like he's supposedly going to be on. A head of recruitment, I think that's a statement to say that they're here for a long time. But again, Jarvis, as we know, roles in football clubs can change. They can. And at the end of the day, I think if this guy comes in and he does a good job and he impresses the right people, keep him on, Jarvis. He's not exactly like he's been out of work since he's left Chelsea. He's not exactly had a lot of clubs sniffing around him or anything. And maybe he's bided his time and he's took his time and thought, no, I'll wait and see what blows my way. And at the end of the day, I just see it as only a good thing. The only thing that I can say for it is that I'd rather have too many people in the club that understand football than not enough. That's the best solution for me. I want football maniacs. I want people who understand what the right profile of players is, and they don't just look at a player, Jarvis, and think they can play football. I don't just want a person who's good on a football pitch. I want somebody who's got a bit of character about him, Jarvis, who's not going to be with these party boys that you see out at 3 a.m. in Manchester, pissed as a fart, and they don't know where, they're a bit worse for wear every Saturday or every Saturday night or whatever. I want some proper analysis on players to think, are they the right profile for this club? And in the same way, like I've seen with what happened with Ashworth at Newcastle, the Tonali thing, it frightened me because I think if we pay £50 million for a player and that player comes to our club, Jarvis, and they get done for betting charges or whatever it is, corruption charges, because they bet on their clubs or whatever, and match fixing and all the different FA rules. If they come into this club, that cannot happen at Manchester United. It might be slid at Newcastle, but Newcastle isn't Manchester United. So there is a level in stepping up in that. And that's the same thing that I think with someone like Vivell. I think he understands that Manchester United is a much bigger step of club. But if you need somebody to build a network, I think it's a good solution because he's built a network with that Red Bull group and it's successful, Jarvis. It is a successful model for players. They always roll out a new shiny toy or a new shiny player every couple of years. That's like a top player. Yeah, it was Haaland a couple of years ago. It was Minamino a couple of years ago. And Nkunku. Sesko's like the new kid on the block, you could say right now. Like there is those managers, there is those players that are always plucking out of those clubs. But you have to find them when they're young, and you can get them for a lot cheaper prices. And if this guy gets the sort of role that he wants and influence in the club, I think it'll be good. And at the end of the day, he's got people around him, Jarvis. If he's not sure on a player, he's got people around him that he can look at Jason Wilcox and say, look, there's this 18-year-old kid. You've worked with, academy setups before and everything. What do you think to him? And that's the only thing that I can think of. And that you've put up here now, Jarvis.
This is the list I found. Key signings. You have Red Bull Salzburg, Daka, Haidara, Soboslai, Adiemi, Haaland, Sesko. And what's more important is notable sales, because that's the biggest job we have this summer, I think, is transfers out, not just transfers in. And can we get some money for them? I think it's very important, because this has been the I would say the most difficult thing in Man United the last 10 years, because we put our mediocre players on astronomical wages and long-term contracts, so it makes them very hard to sell. So if he has the connections, the knowledge, maybe it will help out. You see his notable signings. Let's see his notable sales. You have Upamecano, Ibrahim Konate, Tyler Adams, Ademola Lookman. So there's a lot of good players there on his list. So I think he will come good. And I think it's very, as you say, it's better to have more is merrier in a way when it comes to Man
more
United.
merry men, more the merrier. Yeah. But even like you're saying, Jarvis, the thing that I like about that list as well, it's full of internationals. It's not like a set profile. We always associate this with some clubs. Like Man United has always had that figuring that they have to have the best British player. It's a British founded club. They have to be founded around having English players in the team. I don't always like that, and I don't always think it's a great solution to everything. England will always produce good players. We know this. It's happened for generations. They're always going to produce talent. But I think there's just as good talent out there in Europe that you can get. But if you don't have the right people who understand that market, then you're going to struggle to identify those players. Like, for example, Ashworth, Jarvis. If Ashworth looks at a player, or he puts the people in place that know the British market of young players, he'll find good players from somewhere, Jack. You might see a player in the Championship and think, you give them a bit of, connection, you give them a bit of affection, you bring them to Manchester United, you put them in the right sort of role, you don't throw them in the deep end, but you stagger them in, Jarvis, and suddenly, maybe 2 years, you've got a player that's worth 50, 60 million pounds that you bought for 5 million from, I don't know, Cardiff or wherever.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking. Like, that's Ashworth's market. That's his expertise. Vivell's market is internationals. Europe's elite. He's done it for example, what we said with Haaland when they bought Haaland from Mulder years ago. They bought him for peanuts, and they took him obviously straight into the Salzburg setup, and then they've moved, and then they got a decent chunk of money in the release clause that they wanted, and they was happy with. They made a massive return, Jarvis. Yeah, you can think maybe buying Haaland from €5 million and selling him, I think they did for like €30 million. It doesn't seem that massive of margins, but to a club like Salzburg, that's huge. That's like Manchester
United. Well, you got five times your investment in a way.
That's it. That's 5 times your investment. That's a good business transaction for you, but also it proves that you can you've got the right people in place to identify players. And that's why I think when I said about that with Chelsea, when they chose Winstanley and Stewart over this guy, I think they made a mistake. I do. And I think later on down the line, we've seen with what happened with Chelsea's recruitment right now, they've been poor. They've been absolutely poor. But a couple of the players that this guy brought in, Chelsea fans, they've not exactly been able to see them because they have had a couple of injuries, bearing in mind. Like Badiashile, I think you could say, is a massive signing for Vivell. And Kunku, I think you can see the connections clearly there with him and why you would bring in that kind of player. They're 2 players there that Chelsea haven't really had for most of the season. But when they was at Leipzig and when they was at Monaco, respectively, Jarvis, a lot of Manchester United fans would have probably wanted those players. I certainly was a massive fan of Badiashile, just because I thought the physical demands of the Premier League, I thought he can run with it. And I think he's a decent player, but he's not had enough game time because he's been injured. But again, this is what we're saying. And until you have a stabilised structure around the football club, that's when you're then going to identify the right players, the right characters. And what Sir Jim Ratcliffe always talks about, is his favourite word, the environment. Yeah. The environment will change suddenly, and the culture in the club will change because there'll be a positive vibe because there's, talented players that are coming through the door. And listen, you don't have to be brilliant on the football pitch to have an influence in Manchester United. You don't. Listen, Roy Keane, for all his credit and everything, he was a brilliant player, but he was an even better character because he understood and he was so professional to how football should be played, especially through his latter years anyway. That's the sort of embodiment that you want. Cantona is the exact same. He was a top player on the field. But what he gave you off the field as well, Jarvis, and in the dressing room, you can't buy. Sometimes in football, it's impossible to buy that. You have to identify it in somebody who's maybe 18, 19. And when they get to, say, 25, Jarvis, that's where your investment that you made years ago comes back to almost help you out in a way. But that's why I think with someone like Vivell, he gives you those expertise. And the one thing that we always use at Man United is, does he tick the Manchester United criteria? I think he does.
Yeah.
I do think he does.
Well, he has experience. He's been with Chelsea, and he knows the German, Austrian market, and as you said, internationals. But when you think of it, now we have like Ashford coming in, doing the British market. We have Vivell with the German market, the international. We have also now Berada, who will cover the Spanish market. He has good control on all of them. So basically, we are trying to map all of Europe and the world with experts in every department. So I can see us doing really well and finding the new talents all around the world. And I think that's important because it has totally lacked under the Glazers in the last 19 years or 25 years or whatever you want to call it. And now suddenly we have a chance because we all read the rumors. We are linked to all these good players all the time, but we never seem to land any one of them. We always end up signing dross in a way. So I'm quite optimistic on the future. And I just want to cover it today. We also read this tweet from Fab and all the other big ones, Ornstein, that Dan Ashworth is signing a Man United sporting director from Newcastle. And they have reached an agreement, I think, from 5 to 7 million, I heard. Is that correct?
In and around that, I think. Like I said, three quarters of 20 million, which was what they was asking for. That's around that figure.
Yeah. So it's quite good when we have Ashford in place because we have been waiting for him in a way. So everything has been on stall for a moment, but now we are cooking again and we are ready to move on. And the new financial year started yesterday, 1st of July. So we suddenly have money to spend. We have heard rumors about 35 millions in the kitty. With the amortization, we are talking about maybe 110 to 150 million. Can we do anything with this, or do you think we need to sell players to get what we want this summer?
I think, again, like we talk about with the experts that we brought in the markets, Jarvis, if we recruit players smart, I think we could sign, on average, 4 players that are going to improve this team. But that includes player sales. I think if you're just basing it off of, if we didn't sell anybody, I think we could probably sign 2 players at the max without selling anybody to influence extra funds being available. But again, I also look at the market. I also look at, like I said, the experts that we brought in. I think Vivell recruits players, and he's very good at with his talent ID and identifying players that fit a style, and understanding like the character of the player and if they're going to fit in to what that club needs or wants. I think again, if we recruit a couple of younger players for say £5 or £6 million, if it doesn't work out, Jarvis, you just put it on the annual losses. Fine, you take a loss on a player. You didn't get it right. But I'd rather spend £5 million each on, say, 4 players, Jarvis. I don't know nothing about. But if I get one of them right, Jarvis, and one of them turns out to be 50, 60 million pounds, I've made all my money back if I ended up selling them or I keep them because they're that influential to the team. And then again, it just proves that you have the right people in place because they identify players properly. But again, if we recruit players, speaking financially, again, I think we can get 2 players, no hassle, no issue, and that's why I think they are targeting a centre back. I think as soon as Netherlands are either out of the tournament or whatever, I think they'll go for this Zirkzee kid. I do. I think that again, the release clause starts from today. From 1st of July today, and it runs until August. So as soon as the Euros are over, Jarvis, and he's contactable in a way, so you can make proper connections with him, you can speak to the player and everything. You can speak to his agent and everything and that. They've got a good relationship with that. But until a lot of these players return from that Euros, you're not really going to make much of a connection if you're targeting players who are still playing in the Euros right now. That's my problem. The same thing with De Ligt as well. I don't buy this the styles that people are making out to say that De Ligt, he's happy to come. He's signed everything. He's all penned up and signed up and everything. I don't think it's like that. I just think it's as simple as his agent has contacted him to say Manchester United are interested. Would you be interested? And if you are, I'll do all the legwork. You just focus on your international duties. And I think effectively he's just said, yeah, I'd be open to it. I'd be interested to hear what they've got to say. Do your work. You're my agent. That's what I pay you for. And he's probably the agents again. They're probably doing the legwork for it and that. But this is what I mean. If you can get these deals in line, Jarvis. So let's say they always agree. Let's say they agree a fee with all these players, De Ligt and Zirkzee, and the clubs and everything. Let's say it's all basically signed up. The only thing you need then, Jarvis, is just a player to return back. If they want a week or a couple of days away with family on holiday, I've got no issue with that. They've played a long Euros campaign. They've played a full season as well. Go and have a bit of an holiday. Come back the following week or whatever. Sign the contract. You're a Manchester United player. Move to Manchester. Ship everything over here. Sorted. And you've signed 2 players. If we did that, Jarvis, I like that model. But again, with the players again that we then want to try and sell to come, we don't necessarily really need to comply with PSR. It just means that it will help us spend more in the market. That's the best solution that I could say for it. But in terms of a massive impact, if we signed 4 key players, Jarvis, for this window, it improved as massively. I've seen when you see them pictures that people put online and stuff like, they put 4 players in a quadrant and say, if you get these 4 players for say X amount of money, I don't think it's too bad. The 4 players that I think are most likely to come to Manchester United, I've seen and heard of, you'd probably say De Ligt. If Everton dropped the asking price for Bramthwaite, I think they would probably buy him. And if they sell a couple of players, I do think they'd still buy him.
Okay, so you think we'll go with 2 centre backs?
I think they'll target De Ligt because I think he's an easier negotiation with Bayern to get him out of there. And I think Bayern want rid of him anyway because they want Tar, don't they, from Leverkusen. So I think it's a bit easier to bargain with Bayern than it is Everton at the moment. But when Everton are struggling because they don't have a lot of clubs buying their players, I think they're just going to drop the demands. And I think as soon as because I think we are going to sell one of Maguire or Lindelof, Jarvis. I think whoever we sell out of that, we're going to use all of the money that we can get from that deal, put it into the deal for Bramthwaite, and just pay whatever we have to extra to get him if they come down in the price. Because then you've replaced the centre-back that you've already lost in Varane, but then you've also replaced another centre-back that you've lost. And for me, if you had Maguire, Lindelof out of them, you pick out of either of them, I'm not bothered, and Varane walk out the door, and you have De Ligt and Bramthwaite come through the door, you've got 2 players there who are massively younger than all 3 of those that I just mentioned, so that they can improve with the right level of coaching, the right environment to work in. They can improve and they can develop. It's better for us to recruit players that are in that sort of age bracket, and it works for us. And that's what I say. And I think out of those, I think we'd probably get those 2 ideally. I think the Ugarte one, I think again, Javi, I think that's quite an easy one to do. I think you could work with the agent again. You can have everything signed up and sealed, all paperwork and that. You wait for Ugarte to finish at the Copa America. He flies back to Paris or whatever, or have a bit of an holiday, mate. Not a problem. Go and have a couple of days away with your family. Fly to Manchester, sign everything. You're a Man United player, and that's just how I think that Manchester United are wanting to work. But it's funny, really, how even though we don't have Champions League football, Jarvis, all of these players that we seem to be linked with, they're all open to coming for some reason. There's something different about it, because we always use this, to beat a stick against Man United years ago when we didn't have all these football people in this club, when it was bankers that were running us, and it was like, well, we can't sign the top players because we're not in the Champions League.
Yeah,
I don't want players to come to Manchester. The thing that annoys me the most, Jarvis, is I don't want players that want to sign for a Champions League club. I don't want players who want to do that. I want players who want to sign for our club. Not a Champions League. We're not just a Champions League club. We're Manchester United. Sign for this club. This club is different to fucking a Champions League club. Whatever. Manchester United will be in and out of the Champions League. That always happens with clubs at this level. But my biggest thing for it all is I just want players to come in and understand what this club means and how almost like the pressure of playing for this football club, but they understand it, Jarvis. Or the football people that are in this club right now, they work with these players to settle them in. We don't settle players in well, and that's probably why a lot of these players don't live up to the hype that they get around them when they come in. But for me, I think if we got Branthwaite, I don't mind Dillick, to be fair, Jarvis is a player. If we don't pay stupid money for him, I don't think he's a bad deal.
This is the heartometer from MUFC Realist TV. Mick has made. You see Manuel Ugarte on top, Zirkzee, Matthias de Ligt, João Neves, Todibo, Rabiot. So basically, goes on. There's a lot of players, but as you mentioned, we have at least 4 players. I think Ugarte, Zirkzee, de Ligt, and João Neves, Todibo.
I think out of all of them, Jarvis. I think out of all of them, the top 3. I think the most. I think they're the ones that they want, that they're targeting right now. Out of all those players on them lists, I think those are the 3 that they've looked at or they've identified as being the right profile of players that they want. I think we can put 2 and 2 together with Dillet and say that Ten Hag's obviously having a little bit of a say in that. But I also think the club agree with him on that. He's a right sort of profile of player to buy, and for a centre-half position as well. You've lost a tall centre-back, a domineering centre-back in Varane. You need to replace him with a like-for-like profile. I think Dillet fits the bill in a way. He's had a bit of a rocky patch at Bayern, but I think at Juventus, I think he was quite good. Ajax, I saw what I saw at Ajax, and he's a leader. I want players who are going to embody leadership at this club. He's been a captain at other clubs, so why can't he do it at United? Zirkzee again, he's a talent.
Tom, I have to say, when it comes to the Ligt, I just want to have my say. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, go on.
Continue on Zirkzee, but I just want to say, I see a lot of people in the chat room is not very, for example, that you rate Braithwaite higher than the Ligt. So you get some banter from the VR room. And for example, Lillis comes and say the Ligt is injury prone and slow like Maguire. So I'm not sure. I think a lot of people are very skeptical when it comes to the Ligt. But I agree, he was good at Ajax. He was decent in Juventus. Bayern, no, he hasn't been good at all. But the thing is, signing a player from Bayern, we have tried it before, and we know Bayern. They are astute when it comes to signing players, and they never let go of players who are on top. They always sell players on the decline, and they are able to get money for them. We all remember Schweinsteiger. What's the other signing we had from Bayern? With 2 of them. Well,
it wasn't a loan, wasn't it, Sabitzer?
Yeah, Sabitzer. Yeah, Sabitzer. Yeah. So none of them really worked out in a way. So I'm not sure signing Bayern players.
I mean, I understand the vibe with terms of, some clubs like Real Madrid, that they don't really sell players at the top of their game. But in this current situation, I would say it might be slightly different for Bayern, seeing that they have a new head coach, and the new head coach might have a different design on the players that he would want to use in his squad. It was like, for me, De Ligt went through a situation where he was favored by Nagelsmann, but he wasn't liked by Thomas Tuchel when he came in to replace Nagelsmann. So it was one of those things where I feel like that was more the case, other than the fact that De Ligt was not a good player during that period of time. Because from what I'm hearing in Germany, a lot of the Bayern fans are furious that De Ligt is being linked to a move outside of Bayern Munich. And, that speaks a lot of volumes. He didn't have a great 2 seasons at Bayern, but his first season was much better than this season. He had more game time. He did get injured to the latter part of last season, so that was one of the injuries that he had. But this season, he was mostly fit. He just wasn't used. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I feel like, in a way, I would rather the devil that I know, in the sense that I know that he was his best under Erik Ten Hag, and he coming to be under Erik Ten Hag if he comes to United. So I would think that he would probably return to that vein of form, seeing that he would have a manager that knows him well. He knows the manager, how the manager would want to play. He would also have a previous knowledge of playing with Lisandro Martinez. So I think that bodes very well for him coming and adjusting into the team and making a good go of it as soon as he get into game. I don't think he might be like super amazing for the first few games, but he will definitely adjust quicker than normal. And Brantwaite, good talent, young centre back. For me, the only thing I really can't wrap my head around is that 70 million. I don't think it will ever be worth it. There's no reason that we should be going in for a deal 70 million for a player who's in a breakout season. We already complained about Rasmus Højlund last season. You don't want to be complaining about Brantwaite under the first window of Ineos. It would be like crucifiable. Like it would be real bad for them. So, I mean, if we do move away from Brantwaite, because you see, you're looking at the arbitration for Todibo, and some reports are that they might not even go to arbitration. So it is one of those things where we could possibly see two centre backs come in for like a lesser fee, or probably the total fee of 70 million. And even if we move on Maguire, we have young centre backs coming up from the academy that they are going to be used to bolster the squad for more reasons than just youth. What I mean? They have to keep up the homegrown quota as well. So that's one of the reasons why they will be promoting at least 5 to 6 youngsters from the youth team. So it's just one of those things. It's like to do damned if you do, damned if you don't. But hopefully, with the decisions that they've already made, you could say that they backed their words up. They wanted Ashworth, he's here. They wanted Wilcox, he's here. No one knew that we was getting Barada, and he starts in a week. So I would say, as much as we would say don't gung-ho believe everything you hear, I would say you could give Ineos the benefit of the doubt that they're making proper decisions and they're standing by the word so far. Of course, there's some things will be a give and take, like maybe the possible increase that might be coming to ticket prices, as well as the fact that they might want some kind of funding or some kind of aid from the city and stuff to build a new stadium. These things, I feel like, part and parcel, it could give and take somewhere, and it will work out, because at the end of the day, they're aiming for the one goal, which is to improve Manchester United. So it might just be a more interesting when we all put it up to be, and yes, we will all be given some form of past trauma in the way we react to things and how it happened, because at the end of the day, for 10 years, we've been going through a bad spell in transfers, wage spending, you name it, we've had it.
Yeah.
So maybe now we could just take a step back and see what they do. I mean, it's July 1st. First thing this morning, 8 o'clock. Dan Ashworth is in. You know what I mean? And the reports in Germany might be a little bit different to what happened in England, because in Germany today they were saying Dillet is basically a done deal. That's what Christian Falk was saying this morning. So I'm not saying that I'm not saying I'm going to take it for 100%, but if Christian Falk is usually very accurate with Bayern Munich, so I would feel like these are things that happen. Then there was also reports from Florian Pettyberg about, Manuel Ugarte, and maybe these guys are tournaments, but like you were saying earlier on about the agents doing the business, these guys doing the job. Maybe the players already had received phone calls. They were said to be in direct contact with Erik ten Hag, each one of those 3 players at different points in the last week. So when direct contact happened with the manager, I would tend to think for United is more of a situation where it's a matter of time before the player comes in, because usually that's how it goes. So
Mark, the thing that I like about a lot of these players that we're targeting, though, is these players normally come available in the market, but we don't act fast enough to end up getting them, and they don't end up coming here. So, for example, when Ugarte comes on the market, let's say Kimmich ends up leaving Bayern for whatever reason or whatever, they're going to target that similar profile of midfielder. Ugarte, if he's on the market, he fits the bill and the profile of what they'd want. Bayern would be one of those clubs that would target him. You'd probably say, other clubs in the Premier League would look at him, maybe a Chelsea or a Liverpool or whatever, if they need another midfielder. And these clubs will eventually get those players before us. At least now, if you get these deals in line, like when you're saying there with it's in Germany, the sort of reports saying it's a done deal and everything. if you get everything to the point of where all you need is the player to fly into Manchester, you take him to Carrington, put the contract in front of him, get a camera there, and just take a picture with him, a pen over the paper, and that's all that you need to do. I like that way of moving because at least we've got players in A before a pre-season, B they can settle in this city. So even when we think about the external factors of it, guys, a player coming in really late in a transfer window, they're coming into a city they don't know. They're moving probably the whole family over here, which is a different environment for them at home. As much as they think about pressures on the football pitch, they have to think about the pressures off of it as well. But also, these players coming in early, they can go away on the pre-season tour. They can make friends. They can make connections. They understand maybe the style that they want to implement or the coaching philosophy. They get a lot of it. But the bigger thing that I think for us all as fans is we're moving in the market, but we're not getting penny pinched as much as we used to years ago. Like with this De Ligt thing, for example, this would have dragged on for months, 3-4 months. They'd have put a stupid evaluation like 70 million, like Everton have done with Branthwaite, and they'd hold out for like 3-4 months until we suddenly get up to that range, and then they'll drop it by like 5 million and we'll pay it 65 million or something ridiculous. But we're not targeting players in that environment. Like with the Branthwaite one, we put an offer in which we thought we was fair with. Everton weren't prepared to negotiate, so we've gone elsewhere. If Branthwaite, the price comes down again, they'll probably go back in for him because he probably is the player that they want, ideally out of all three of them, to Debo, because they can't get because they're blocked from getting him right now. Branthwaite's the next one they tried to get. They've stalled in the price for it. So De Ligt's the next option almost. But again, when we sell players and more funds come available, these players you can go and get. But that's why I'm saying, if the Dutch national team don't go as far in the Euros and they're suddenly out, I think United will pay the Zirkzee fee straight away because it's an easy deal. You go up to Bologna, you say, I want to trigger the release clause. We've already spoke to Joshua Zirkzee. You've got a good relationship with his agency already because you've worked on deals with him before. It's a win-win. It's an easy deal that can be done, I think, guys, within 10 days. You can agree that you can pay the release clause. You can wire the money over. You can agree the personal terms, write up all the contracts, signed, sealed, delivered in 10 days. It can be done. And like I say with De Ligt as well, as soon as De Ligt comes back, he's going to think, right, am I staying at Bayern? Am I going somewhere else? I'll listen to what Manchester United have to say because I'm open to go in there. I've told my agent to almost work around the clock. That's what I pay you for. Work around the clock for me and benefit for me. And then see where it lands. And the same thing with Ugarte. He's away at Copa America. His agent's probably put a phone call in to say, look, Man United's interested in you. Are you open to go in? Clearly, a lot of the reports that are coming out to say that he's happy to leave PSG. I think, again, it's a win-win deal. It's an easy deal to do. PSG will want to strengthen that team because they've just lost Mbappe. So they're probably going to go on a massive spending splurge and try and replace players and bring in a lot more talented players in that squad. So by doing so, they're going to have to comply with UEFA's financial rules. They're going to have to sell players. Ugarte, for me, anyway, from what I've seen of him, guys, I like him. I think he's the right sort of profile. I don't know. We always associate some players. I think he's very similar to like a Kante player. He gets about the pitch, 3-4 lungs, doesn't huff and puff for 90 minutes or anything, gets up and down the pitch. The perfect profile player that I want to come to Manchester United. And it's almost the perfect Casemiro replacement. That's the key thing for us. When you look at the players that we're linked with right now, would you say Branthwaite's better than a lot of our centre-backs at this club right now? Barring Martinez, I would probably maybe say so. You might make a case for someone like Maguire because of experience, but he's got a better potential than those players did when they come to this club. That's the difference. De Ligt, would you argue, is better than Maguire, Lindelof and the rest? You probably
100%.
would. There you go, and that's what I'm saying about you're replacing players with better quality players. Would you say Zirkzee is probably a younger generation, kind of a Martial signing like we did all those years ago? You probably would say that because of the talent ID again that we're looking at. Ugarte, would you say he's almost a perfect replacement for Casemiro? There you go. Slot him in there. And this is what I'm talking about. If we move smart in the market, guys, and we move at the pace that we are moving at right now, they can sign 4 or 5 players easily. But the more players that you get on that plane to the US before, the better, because it will benefit us at the start of the season. And that's the thing that I think Ineos are looking at more so, to think, if we can evolve everything, like as fast as they have done where they set this structure up, if they can set the structure up and they can bring the players in at the same rate of pace, and this is a consistent thing. I don't just want this for one window, guys, to impress us, and then it suddenly goes back to the old saga of where we're dragging deals out and everything. If this is a new tenure for us, it's the best way forward. But like me and Jarvis said before, I'd rather have too many football people in this club than not enough. And it can only help that you have 4 or 5 brains that are on the same wavelength in terms of recruitment or football.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think when it comes to these Dutch players, we have De Ligt, Zirkzee, isn't it Dutch, I believe?
Yeah.
And because now we have a setup with coaches. We have Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in. We have Hake, Ten Hag, Van der Gaag. So there's a lot of Dutch managers, and don't you think a lot of these Dutch players feel that this is an environment where they can grow and like
flourish,
revitalize their career, and they think they have the same wavelength. They know the football
connections. Jarvis that's what players want, but they want to come into an environment, and for example, you look at Zirkzee. He's 23. He's never played. I think he's played in the Dutch league, and I think he's played in Italy, and that's the only 2 leagues that he's played in. Really, he's not been to a big football club, you could say. So it's a massive. But going from Bologna to Manchester United is like a leap of faith. It's not like he's going to I don't know. Let's say like a Brighton or somebody, and it can develop. And if he doesn't work out as a player, it's not as bad a look for him. If you come to Man United and you fail, it's a dammer on your career. That's the problem. So with a kid coming in like that, if he comes in and the coach, he understands it, because it might be something it might be just something as simple as they understand like the sayings or whatever in Dutch, or they have a better understanding of how, the Dutch culture is, or, personalities or whatever. To bring these players in, when, for example, you want René Hack or Ruud van Nistelrooy to work with, say, Joshua Zirkzee, it's a perfect partnership, guy. You bring someone like Zirkzee in to work with a fellow countryman, probably an idol of his, in Van Nistelrooy, for his country, as a like-for-like countryman. It's a perfect player that you want to look up to and you want to learn from. It's almost too perfect, you could say. But that's what I'm talking about in terms of recruitment, guys. Everything seems to be falling into place, but the only thing is right now, and yet obviously the window's not been open as long, we haven't signed anybody yet. So we're not going to get too gassed or too hyped just
no.
But the players that we're being linked with, I like the profiles of them, so long as we don't get ripped off for them like we did do 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, as you mentioned that, 44 minutes now, Joshua Zirkzee contract for his buyout clause. The release clause is active for the last 44 minutes. You know what I mean? So you might hear in the morning, Man United meet the release clause because you wasn't able to do it before the end of July 1st, which has just ended 45 minutes ago. So now his release clause is active. It's 90% sure that he's going to leave, and it's only 40 million euros, bro. That's like 30 million pounds.
Yes, we saw from Fabrizio, Bologna's director, Santuri, Joshua Zirkzee has a release clause in his contract, and believe he will 99% is going to leave this club this window. And the clause is valid and starting from today until mid-August, worth 40 million euros. So it's not too bad. But we heard about the rumors that his agent wanted an add-on, like 10 millions add-on in agent fees and stuff like that. So it will probably cost more than 40 million euros if we meet the release clause.
Well, from what I've been hearing, we were paying something like 34 million to 37 million pounds, which I think probably includes the agent fees for some reason. If we do that, I'm still not mad at it, because at the end of the day, it's half the price that we paid for Højlund. and I think he will develop very well under with Van Nistelrooy, as he's saying. I'm actually more excited for Root to be working with Hoyland and Ethan Wheatley. To be fair, I think Hoyland is going to see rapid improvement under Root Van Nistelrooy. I think they're pretty much similar stylistically players. And I think having someone who knows what to do in certain moments, what Hoyland is missing is that instinct in the box, and you can coach that. He has a good feel for where to be. He just doesn't arrive in the right timing. And maybe Van Nistelrooy, someone who was really, really good with timing his runs and showing up in the right moments, will be able to relay this to these attackers that we have. So, and Rene Hake is another very, very good tactician, especially with the defensive end of things. So, you're going to see a lot of improvement. We have a lot of youngsters coming through. You talked about Harry Maguire and these guys, but I'm more interested in Willie Kwambala. And then there's young Jack Kingdon coming through as well, and Toby Collier coming in to play central defensive midfield as well. So, there's lots of things that's going to happen. It's going to be a qualitative improvement from my perspective with the coaching staff that we're going to have for that new season coming. And I would not be surprised if tomorrow morning I wake up and Joshua Zirkzee's court has been met by Manchester United, because Eric Ten Hag was in talks with them over the weekend. Manchester United wants him. His release clause is finally active. We can do a deal. One of the guys in the chat was saying that the first preseason game is 15 days away from now. You know what I mean? And 15 days away from now, I think that's enough time for us to sign 3 players to go on preseason with. And if you look at the work that we've been doing so far, Dan Ashworth is here now. I think that was one of the major delays. Whether you wanted him or not, he's here now and he's already working. So it's going to be done. All of these things are going to happen pretty fast, especially the deals that we've been in talks with. There might even be some surprise signings, because if you look at it prospectively, before the 1st of July, we had 50 million to spend. After the 1st of July, that tripled. You know what I mean? So we have 150 in the coffers, because we were always going to spend 120 somewhere there. We just could only spend 50 before. So it's one of those things where creative signings are going to come. If you look at these 3 signings, they come into the door for all but short of 90 million, give or take 5 million maybe. You know what I mean? And then you probably see 2 or 3 players walk out the door. That frees up some wage bill. Also probably brings in 10 to 20, 30 million. You add that to the other 50 or 60 you have in remainder. And I won't be surprised. I know a lot of you, we are staying away from this topic, but we are going to get a statement signing this summer. And I definitely don't think it's a defender. You know what I mean? I think it's definitely going to be João Neves, because you've seen that we've made 2 bids already, one for 55 million and then one for 68 million. I think the next bid is going to be somewhere in the region of 75. And I think that they would do the deal.
But Mark, where do we get the money from? Because we don't have any money. That's our biggest problem. Do you think that Ineos will put in money?
I'm not sure if you guys remember, but a few months ago we talked about an option that Sir Jim Ratcliffe had, that once he puts in a certain amount of money before July 31st, it goes into our transfer spend. It works with FFP, and I think this is the reason why we were waiting for the 1st of July, because this fiscal year we afforded 100 million to spend. The previous fiscal year we had 50, so that's now 150. We just got 90 million from Adidas for this first year of sponsorship. We just got that money over the weekend, so we have some money. It's just how we're going to spend it. You know what I mean? We don't have $1 bazillion, but we have at least somewhere in the region of 120 that's available. And if you look at the 3 signings, that's 90 million. Jarvis, we have 30 million to spare. There are reports that Scott McTominay is probably going to walk out the door in the next 2 weeks for like 20 million. Aaron Wan-Bissaka agreed terms with Galatasaray. He might be walking out the door. I mean, not that I would like to see him go, to be fair. I think having him as backup is good. But if we are really looking at to bring in Frimpong, he has a release clause of 32 million euros again, that's like 21 million pounds. You know what I mean? You can see him come in, you can see another player come in, and we still only spent 150.
Yeah.
Well, it's spending plus wages,
I
amortization
mean, well, the
times
amortization
most
part doesn't
likely
really
5
come in.
years. So every player we bring in, for example, 50 million for the league will cost us about 20 to 22 million a year for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
So
well,
let's say 20 to 25 each player each season, and we sign 5 players, we are up to 125 millions a year.
but I
I think
mean,
that's a little bit too much that we can handle at the moment.
well,
When
I
you
think
think of yeah.
if you look at the FFP situation from last season going into this season won't take into account that we're going to get a further 74 million pounds for being participants in the Europa League, right? So that's 74 million plus we're going to get the 100 and what I think is 140 million that we get for playing in the Premier League every year. Then we just got the 90 million from Adidas, and there's going to be advertisements. There's going to be this season's revenue from sales. The new kit just launched today. It looks pretty amazing. And to be fair, I think the third kit is the better kit. So I think we're gonna, and if the team performs well this season, Jarvis, that increases the sale. I think if you think about it for in this season, 125 mil. If we spend that, that's less than what we usually spend, because in the last two windows in the last window we spent close to
Yeah,
100,
but
and the
Mark,
window
we have to be realistical about our spending. We can't go full out Leeds, Peter Rinsdale or what his name, and suddenly go bankrupt, because we will take a huge gamble if we spend all our money on transfers this window, because we have to be sensible about it,
no,
because
I mean, I'm actually not taking into account the sales that we're going to make, to be fair, because we are going to make some sales this window. And even if we amortize, think about it like this: if we paid the major down payment this year, which would be, let's say, 25 million, average 5 players, 125. Next year we pay 5 million per player, or 5 to 10 million. That's what, 50 max. That's 50 or 25 million next year. The following year we pay another 50 or 25, depending on if we do 10 a year or we do 5 a year. And we're only going to pay that for what, 3 years. If we do 10, we pay that for 2 years. So it's not 25 per player each year. It's 5 or 10 per player for 2 years or 3 years, because you have to do them. If a player is going to cost you 30 million pounds and you pay 20, you only have to pay 10. His wages I know his wages will come out of spend, but it's a different bracket of spend. You know what I mean? The wages aren't in the same bracket as the spend to purchase. The purchase spend is different from the wage bill. And our wage bill
with the
was
agent fees,
exactly. So the wage bill was twice higher before the season started, when the season started. Now we already dropped the wage bill somewhere close to 800k, and it's probably going to drop further to another 400 or 500k. And even if we bring in 5 players, I would bet money that our wage bill doesn't increase more than 700k, which means we still save about 700k on wages per week, which is still good in effect. And then you're going to have players. And then what if I'm just saying, what if next season Marcus Rashford leaves? That's 400k off the wage bill. If Casemiro is sold, that's another 400k off the wage bill. So it's complicated in the sense that there's a lot of different possibilities, and however they do it, at least we have football minds and people who are actually intelligent about how they go about things, that know what they're doing in this type of situation to make the right decision.
Mark, we have a question from Kat coming in. You are the transfer guru of Austria, I believe. So what about sales? Any news on who's going where? You mentioned Famisaka to, was it Galatasaray or Fenerbahce?
It's Galatasaray. They've already made the approach. His terms are agreed with the player. It's just Man United if they're going to accept that, because they're trying to offer something in the region of 10 million euros, but Man United would like to get somewhere in the region of 20, which would bring it up to somewhere in the region close to like 11 million pounds. And as much as that is super low, I think They might do the deal because the player wants to leave. He already agreed terms. He's not at the Euros or anything like that, so he's free and open. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. There's also some reports that Fulham is back in for Scott McTominay, and they might do a deal because, you know, Paulinho is going to Bayern Munich. It's probably going to happen in the next 2 weeks, and then they might make a push for Scott. So they're open to sell Scott as well. There's also reports that we're open to hear offers for Marcus Rashford. I don't know how true that is, but it was reported today that they're open to hearing offers for Marcus Rashford. Whether he goes or not, that's a whole different story. You know, there's also reports that Harry Maguire, they're open to listening for offers for him. And you know, West Ham came in for him last season. Will they come back in for him? I don't know. But what I can say is that, you know, some of these players, where things are happening, De Ligt has offered to take 185K per week. So he's dropped his wages for the deal for Manchester United. Maybe Harry Maguire drops his wages if he's leaving. Maybe some of these players do the same thing. Now, you know that Harry Amas is being promoted, and we are looking at another left back. So reports, I don't know, but in Germany, they're saying that Bayern Munich is kind of looking at Luke Shaw. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard the reports around. Kellyberg has been talking about it in a mention that they might be looking at a Premier League left back who's at the Euros. There's not much of them. So, in my opinion, it's possible. You never know what could happen. And there's also, you know, there are few players like Casemiro who has this hanging over his head, the deal from Saudi. You know what I mean? So it might be true that he goes. There are some reports that we are going to sign. We are going to sign Amrabat. Big up Stephanie, guys. Thank you for smashing the likes. 98 watching, guys. There's 12 of you who haven't smashed the likes yet. I mean, 22.
101 watching according to the screen, my screen at the moment. So yeah, that's fantastic. People smash the like. So what do you think is most likely? Is it Scott and Wan-Bissaka, maybe Maguire? Are those the players that we are going to cash in on? And Casemiro, of course, to Saudi. But that will probably be a free transfer, just remove the wages. Or do we see any money coming in?
I don't know. The Casemiro thing is tricky because if he does not want to do the deal, then the only way we could get him out is probably to do it for free. If he is interested in the deal, then we might get somewhere in the region of £30 million for him, which is going to be really good. I think that breaks us even. He had a great season the first season. The second season wasn't good, so we come off break even. That goes into the FFP. It does its job. I think one of the surprise transfers that might happen actually first out of the club is Jadon Sancho. There's reports that Juventus is coming in for him very heavy, and they weren't able to get Mason Greenwood. They can't meet the 40 million valuation, but Manchester United are willing and open to negotiating for Sancho because they want him to move on. So it might be a deal for Sancho that comes in first. I think you're definitely going to see at least 3 or 4 exits from United this summer. And it's just...
But Mark, if you have learned anything from Ineos so far is that they will wait. And we saw it with Ashworth. They waited until the final day for Newcastle to cash in on the financial year because of their FFP problems. So I think we could see a long transfer window and things will probably not work itself out until maybe the end.
We'll still sell players probably until the end of the deadline day. I'd probably anticipate. But I think the difference is they want to sign players as early as they can. And then whatever PSR problems that they end up having, if they end up, let's say they're over the line by halfway through the window, by the smallest margins, they'll just worry about that towards the end. And if they have to sell a player for under market value, so they're back in line with the laws, they'll probably do it. But they're going to hold out for the fees that they want. As much as we always say about us, when clubs quote us for prices for players, and we get quoted stupid prices like the Bramthwaite deal for £70 million, if Everton come knocking suddenly, if they get an influx of money, and suddenly they say that they want Scott McTominay or they want Harry Maguire, do the same thing back to these clubs. Listen, they've pulled their pants down for years. They've rinsed us for years. Fucking start and do it back. Start and do it back. That's all that I want. I want a bit of intent, a bit of authority over the market and say, listen, you're dealing with Manchester United. When you go and negotiate with Bayern Munich, it's hard to negotiate with a club like Munich, like Real Madrid. A lot of these clubs, unless you bow down to them, like we've done when we signed Varane, like we did when we signed Casemiro, like we did when we signed when we wanted to sign players from these clubs like Schweinsteiger. Unless you bow down to these clubs, you don't normally get the players for them. That's the same thing that I want with Manchester United. If a club wants to come to Manchester United's door, you're not in control. That's the difference. You're not in control of the solution of what the actual meeting's going to be dictated upon. If you don't like the price, fine, go next door, because you're not going to find as good a player as what we've got here or whatever. That's the way that I want Man United to roll. And if it means that we sign all the players that we need in the summer, and let's say we have a massive squad, because if you sign 4 players, you don't sell anybody. Probably going to have a massive squad that you're going to have to dump players off of anyway. But the retainment of what Mark was saying in terms of the wage structure, these players, for some reason, guys, they're all interested in coming to United. Even though I said before, there's no Champions League attraction. There's clearly some sort of interest with them. Then I don't think any of the players that we're linked with are going to demand stupid money or stupid wages, because if they did, I don't think they'd touch them, because they don't think that the motivations are right to come to Manchester United if they're motivated by money. And that's what I say. So I look at players like Bramthwaite that we've been linked with. I don't think he's that kind of player. De Ligt, again, I don't think he's that kind of player. And if he has those personal connections at the club, I don't think I think he'd rather reunite with these people if it means he doesn't get paid as much, rather than get paid a shed load and work with people that you've never worked with before. It's happy to know, to be with a face that you know than that you don't know at the end of the day. And I look at, again, with people like Zirkzee and stuff, it's like his first big club contract that he wants. So you're not going to blow that club out of the water and say that you want stupid money. Exactly the same thing with Ugarte. Yeah, Ugarte is at PSG. He's on a decent-ish wage. But if it comes round to it and PSG do this shuffling around because they've lost their superstar in Mbappe, suddenly they're then going to want to sign a couple of players. Ugarte will probably go out the door. And that kid that you were just on about before, Matt, that Neves, PSG will probably look at that kid. That's what they do. They've got the connections over in Portugal if they want to do it with Benfica. They've bought players from Benfica, Sporting, Porto. They've done it before, so they can go and do it again. But the difference with us is, at least we're putting the feelers out for players. I remember years ago with Man United, we target one player for one deal, and that's it. Now we're working on 3, 4, 5 deals. Some of them are going to work, and you might get so far. Some of them you might hit a bit of a deadlock and you might have to come back to them in a bit. But at the end of the day, these players, I've not seen a player that we've been linked with right now that has said that they're not interested in coming to Manchester United. That tells you something, that clearly whatever conversations they're having with the people that are leading the negotiations of this club, clearly they're buying into something. Because if Ugarte leaves the Champions League proven club in PSG, and he's on a decent wage to come to Manchester United, clearly he's been told something, or he's been given something. And it's not this influx of wages and you're going to double his wage or anything like that. Clearly it's something that he's buying into, or he sees that he likes. The same thing with a kid like Zirkzee, to take such a step up. He could take a side step and go to a Dortmund or a Leipzig or a development club, and then go to a bigger football club and a bigger ceiling. But again, the name of Manchester United comes around very often. You could argue there's maybe three or four legacy clubs in football that if they come knocking, clubs' heads turn to. They do. That's Bayern because they're the biggest team in Germany. That's Manchester United because they're the biggest team in England. And the 2 big clubs in Spain because of the history that they have in Real Madrid and Barcelona. When either those 4 clubs come knocking, you tell your agent, I want to hear them. I want to hear what they've got to say. And that's just how clubs run. But all these players that have been linked with, guys, I've not heard one of them say that they wouldn't be interested in coming to Manchester United if it got that far, to the point where they have to make the decision if they want to come or not. But the difference is, guys, we're networking. Even if we don't get some of these players in this window, guys, we've built some connections with these clubs. So in the future, when you want to sign players again, You might look at it from this perspective. If you sign De Ligt, for example, you do a decent deal where you're happy, we're happy, Bayern are happy, whatever. There's a decent relationship there. If you want a player from Bayern again, you probably get the player from Bayern again because you've got a connection there. You've got a good relationship. And then people wonder why City are so successful in recruiting players for the fees that they do or whatever. Because they network with clubs. They work well with clubs. And then when they want to sell players, guys, then you wonder why they're able to sell young players for like £20 million that don't even have a senior cap. That's the difference. It's networking. But one of the things that I like as well, Jarvis, from what we've seen with the news recently, Rene Hack and Ruud van Nistelrooy, the fact that those two, I would say, they could be their own man. They are managers in their own right if they want to be. The fact of that they want to come to United and be coaches under this setup, clearly, again, like I'm saying with the players, they've heard something that they like better. I think it's no secret that Van Nistelrooy was offered to become his replacement at Burnley. Rene Hack had the Go-Ahead Eagles manager's job. He was secured. He was signed up for next year. He wasn't going anywhere. So the fact that these people are leaving these jobs or leaving these offers to one side to come to Manchester United, it clearly sets something out when they could go and have their own coaching career on their own and their own setup and run their own team, but they'd rather join this team. It's different. And like I'm saying before, when Man United come knocking, irrespective of players, same thing with directors, mate. As soon as Manchester United went up to Newcastle and Dan Ashworth heard that United's knocking at the door, it weighs down on you. And it does put that thought in your mind to think, well, I might never get this offer ever again. That's the thing that I'm saying with those 4 big clubs that I just said about. When any of those clubs come knocking for you, whether you're a player, a director, a manager, whatever, when those 4 clubs come knocking, you have to listen to what they have to say. And you can either like it and you'll go along with it and you might end up joining that club, or you might listen to it and think, nah, it's not my cup of tea or whatever, I don't like it. You don't end up going. But that's the thing with us, guys. The narrative of the club is more important. I think the narrative has to change for this club more than just buying and selling players or anything. As soon as we get rid of this Man United overpay for players narrative, clubs are going to take us a lot more seriously. They will. After this window, I think clubs will take us a lot more seriously. And they're going to think, right, we can't fuck about with Man United, because if they come to the door and the offers us a decent amount of money, they're not going to up the offer. They're not going to overpay. It's different now. And I like that approach, but the more important thing for me, guys, I like the pace that they're working at. And it's not this, we work on one deal and then drop it and go here or there or everywhere. And even the bigger thing, guys, I'm not seeing our directors get on private planes flying around Europe looking like absolute mugs when they don't bring players home, like John Murtough and Richard Arnold did. They flew to Barcelona 3 times, didn't bring anybody home. Flew to Italy, didn't bring Rabiot home. But I don't see Barada on these private jets going to here, there and everywhere, signing players. You don't need to do it. It's as simple as you can pick up the phone, speak to the right people, and you'll just do it over the phone. Saves you the hassle, saves you the air miles, the jet lag, whatever you want to call it. Saves you all these problems. And this, again, Jarvis, is why I was saying before, this is why I think we're working a lot better, because we have people who understand how to negotiate for players.
100%.
These people did not know how to negotiate a piss up in a brewery, let alone a football deal.
Yeah, I see Kat coming in and said Woodward's financial model has done so much damage. And now we are in a better place with footballing people, and we have many of them, as you mentioned, the more the merrier. And all of them can actually fly around Europe and talk to clubs and call them. And I trust almost all of them on their merit as footballing people. They have good experience when it comes to this game, and it's not for everybody. You know, we all heard rumors about Woodward, how he went around Europe. He talked about spending money like Disneyland or whatever he said. So yeah, it's just the way it is. We have a couple of questions here, or this is for Mark from Cat. He said, "Thanks, Mark, for the answer about transfers out." But she want to hear anything about Sancho. Do you know anything?
Yeah, well, I was saying like the favorites right now for Sancho is Juventus. I think the player might be open to the move as well. He's been offered to quite a few Premier League clubs as well, and they refused him. So, I mean, the options in the Premier League might be limited. I'm not sure if he might be willing to go to a lesser club because there are some interests, like, you know, and I know we don't really talk about this other player here too much, but there's been like a host of Premier League clubs this week that are in for him. They're just, hiding behind non-disclosure of who they are at the moment because they don't want to deal with attraction, but they want the player. And I think if it's one player we're going to wait for the 40 million pounds from is that player, because at the end of the day, we all know that based on football, his value is probably double that. So we're going to try to get that maximum as we can and get our terms with that. But Jadon Sancho, I think you can look forward to a move. I think it will happen soon because the player also would like to have a resolution. He's said to be coming into Carrington to have a meeting with Ten Hag in the next few days. And I think after that meeting, you're going to see a strong stance, whether it is he stays or he goes. I think definitely would probably be at Juventus next season because they might do a deal where they take him on loan with a fee and a buy clause, not an option, a buy clause. So I think it's going to be like that. That's what I think it's going to be for him.
Yeah, great comment from Big Booty Latina Hunter. Breaking news: Sancho just made it to the semi-final of EA FC 24. So it's good. He's still on his PlayStation. No, but actually, when going back to a little bit serious, do you think Ten Hag and Sancho can work it out now with footballing people around who can be intermediates, like work out the deal?
Wilcox is probably the best one out of all of them because he's had that connection with
about
him as a
both
kid
of them
at
saving
City.
face,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it should have been something that should have been really easy. The player should have just took the thing down and do his talking on the football field. I think that's what all players should do. The only way you can prove a coach wrong, prove the fans that you're the real deal, is to do it on the football field. I feel like if he apologizes, Ten Hag is going to be like, all right, no problem. I think Ten Hag likes the guy. I don't think any manager would have just let a guy go on vacation on a sabbatical for 3 months and get a team to work with him to get him back and prepare and help him prepare to be back after that stint. I think that showed that the manager was willing to back him. He also played him the most of any manager that he had in his time at Manchester United, twice as much, to be fair. So for me, I think Erik Ten Hag liked the player, but it's just a disappointing situation on both parts. Maybe Erik Ten Hag would have probably made a different decision if he knew this was going to be the result. Maybe Sancho probably also thinks he would have done it differently. You never know. But it's hard to determine. I just think that the media made it a whole meal more than what it should have been, to be fair, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I just want to remind everybody, because we started this late, we won't do a Zirkzee tonight. We will have 10 minutes left of the show. So if you have any questions for the Q&A, please put them in the chat, and we will try to answer as best as we can, because I only have one question in the Q&A session saved for the moment. So get your questions in. Yeah, that will be interesting seeing Sancho. When it comes, for me, I think there's no way back, even if he comes in and apologizes to everybody, because he needs to apologize to the fans too, kissing the badge on Dortmund, and
my stance on that, Jarvis. That badge kiss there. I was that's it.
So for me, nah, I don't want to see him again in the Man United shirt personally, but who am I to judge? Tom, would you like to see him back in the Man United shirt? Could you accept it in a way? If you apologize?
When you leave this club and you put on a different club's crest and you do something like that, you don't come back. I don't care who you are, you don't come back. I've seen bigger players and better players leave this football club and do bigger and better things than he did. We've had, you see with Cristiano Ronaldo for years. He wanted to go to Madrid. We kept him as long as we could, and went off and did what he did, and he's become the superstar player that he has been. Sancho, you don't, like I say, it could have been dealt with a lot. I think from Ten Hag's perspective, I think he probably would have retracted maybe his wording of it. I think he maybe would have worded it a little bit differently, or maybe not have condemned it in a post-match press conference, post-match interview. I think he could have maybe held back on that, or just not named him, and then done it behind the scenes. But I also think Sancho, I think deep down, irrespective of what he's done at Dortmund and stuff in his little time that he's had there, I think he does have a little sense of regret, because I think he looks at the new people that are coming in right now, and he probably thinks, I maybe could have had that fresh start. I maybe could have had that, new chance to work with, for example, Ruud van Nistelrooy. So I know where the runs are. I know how to make these angles. I know where to be to find the number 9 in the box or whatever, and almost model the game around being a proper wide player, so you can work with a superstar number 9. And these things, I think he will. I think later on in his career, to be honest with you guys, I do think he will regret it. I do. I think he's had that bit of regret now. But like I say, when you did what he did in that Dortmund shirt, any hope that he had of ever coming back to this club went away for me. If you leave this club and you put on a different club and crest and you do that, you can fuck off. I'm not bothered.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I think most of us Man United fans agree when it comes to this. With Sancho, there's no way back. But do you think the other clubs who are trying to buy him knows this and will just sit out and wait until we have to cave in?
No, I don't think so, Jarvis, to be fair, because I think a lot of these other clubs will probably look at him. I don't think they look at him as a character. I just think they look at him as a footballer. I think they look at him as a footballer and think, so long as we have a coach that's not going to name blitz him like Ten Hag did in the media. For example, if you work with a manager like Conte's going to, name people and stuff, to use an example. But if you have a coach who will work with players behind the scenes and say, look, you need to improve on this, that, the other, I think that probably works better for him. And probably like Terzic did at Dortmund, he's not a manager for, making outlandish statements or anything. He's a coach. He's a tactician. He works on the training pitch. That suits a player like Sancho. He doesn't like a manager who's going to maybe be a little bit controlling over him. But I don't think a lot of these clubs like Juventus and, Dortmund, whoever want to try and buy him, I think they're just going to look at him and think, he had a bad couple of years at Man United in a very poor environment. Man United have been shit for years. These clubs will probably look at it and think, if we could get him for, let's say, 30, 35 million pounds in and around that region, and we're not going to break the bank, there's a good player there. That's the one thing that I think they will look at is, we've seen him in a Dortmund shirt and we can see what he does in the right environment, with maybe similar quality of players or around him in a proper football structure and environment around him that he can thrive in. We've seen what he can do. And if that club, one of those clubs that I mentioned, if they have that, which mirror images what he had at Dortmund, then you probably will get the best out of Jadon Sancho. But to be honest with you, I draw the line on it at this. I never saw a superstar season in a Manchester United shirt from him. I probably could argue I didn't even see maybe 5 or 6 games of elite classness in a Manchester United shirt, and that's where I draw the line at it. You can't, and I don't. And the thing with Sancho that I don't associate it with a lot of players is he had many chances at this club. He had a couple of different managers. He never improved. So he's had his chance. He's had his fair run in, and that's where I draw the line with the guy.
Well said. I think we all agree when it comes to Sancho. Let's just have a lot of questions coming in, so we can just start with this question from Mick. I will give it to Mark. The question: you think Donny will review his career under the new Dutch coaching team? Do you think he will come back and can revitalize his career in a way? Rise
I
from the
think it's
ashes.
I think it's certainly an option. I think if you look at if you I think if you certainly look at the options that we have in front of us based on FFP and based on the amount of players that possibly could be leaving the club from the midfield, having Donny stay for one season may not be a bad thing. He's already on the books. His wages are not that expensive, and like you said, we're having a whole new coaching staff with guys who not only know him but could relate with him much better. And maybe that big, and you know what, guys, I would say this much. In Ten Hag's first season, I saw Donny for a few games before he got that major injury, and he was starting to look like that player Donny again. You know what I mean? And then that injury came and it totally derailed his season and it put him out of contention. So maybe really and truly he went on loan to try and get himself back into the match form. He had quite a couple of games over in Frankfurt. He did well in a few games, but then he had one or two bad games as well. So it's one of those things where it's a very good possibility that he comes back into the squad, but it's also a possibility that he moves because I've been hearing some talk that Nice might be opening to sign Donny van der Beek. So look out for that.
Oh no, Mark, we can't do deals with Nice. Have you not heard?
Oh, but it's different with Donny. It's actually different. I mean, and like Mick was saying, the funny thing is what Mick is saying makes a lot of sense. And he's been saying that if we were to sign Todibo, we just can't register him for UEFA. So he just won't play Europa League. Right? So maybe it could be the same thing with Donny. But I did hear that there are a few French clubs that are interested in him. It's up to Donny if he's going to move or if he's going to stay. So at this point, I would say 50-50. But I would back him to improve next season.
But just to answer this question, a new Dutch coaching team. Well, you can't always blame the coaches or the managers, and this is Donny's problem because he have had Ole, he have had Rangnick, now Ten Hag twice, the Ajax time and Man United, and he's been on loans, and none of them has been successful. So I think there's no way back for Donny. He needs to go, and I'm not willing to give him a chance. We have tried it, and it failed. We are now a new type of club under Ineos. We have to be ruthless. And I don't know, Donny FC, bye-bye. It's time. It's time. Next question coming in is from Big Booty Latina Hunter, and I will give it to both of you. He say, what kind of polish?
You take this first.
What kind of polish does Erik Ten Hag use for his head? The spit shine. Is it conditioner? Is it an oil? Or is it the Haktua spit shine?
I was thinking it might have been beeswax, to be fair, it had to be something thick, you know what I mean? Because his head does look pretty moist for a bald guy, you know what I'm saying? You see pictures of some of the other bald coaches up close, and they look like they have a little bit of sunburn here and there. Erik Ten Hag looks smooth, so something thick, I would say.
Tom?
Yeah.
Is it Haktua?
Well, you've seen like pictures of him when he was a player from years ago and everything. And he did actually have a set of hair once upon a time ago. It probably didn't suit him, right, at the end of the day. But he's got a decent barber in Manchester, from what I've heard. Again, the media follow him around and everything. Been pictured in a barbershop before. Listen, the guy looks after himself and whatever, but when you're Man United manager, I'm not surprised that you don't want to have any hair at this football club because you probably lose it anyway. We've seen listen, that them Mourinho pictures. I'll never forget them. When he first came here, he had dark brownish hair. When he left here, he had scraggly grey hair. It looked like he'd come out of a dumpster. To be completely honest with you, but no. At the end of the day, with Ten Hag and stuff, I think he's getting probably a lot of what he wanted. These new coaches coming in as well and stuff. But I also think with the players as well, these coaches are only going to bring new ideas to the team and to the table. Like we said with Van Nistelrooy, I think for the attacking players, I think he'll be very useful. René Hack, from what you said, I think it was you, Jarvis, or Mark, I can't remember. He's got good at the defensive side of it, defensive structure set up of the team as well. So maybe from set pieces and defensive structure, I don't think it's too bad at the end of the day. And look, if he ends up retaining some of the people that he's already got, maybe like Van der Gaag and McLaren and stuff, and that, you know, and maybe Benny McCarthy. I don't know if he's still going to leave or not. I think he probably will end up leaving. But, you know, if he keeps a couple of these people and stuff, guys, I think it can only benefit us for the future, because they all can give their fair share in their own way. But
it's funny. Well, I think we just have to move on. Big Booty Latina Hunter, great question. Reber Bakir comes in with the question. Thank you, Reber. He says Greenwood ? Nothing more on that question, but I think where he's heading. So, Tom, maybe you will have a quick say on Greenwood. What do you think?
I don't think he'll stay. But we've been over this numerous times on Jarvis' corner. I don't think he's going to stay. I think he knows what's waiting for him if he did come back to the Premier League. I think wherever he ends up going in Europe, if they come and have an English game or English tie where he has to come back here, he knows what's going to fucking wait for him as soon as he steps off the plane. He's settled in Spain. He doesn't get as much shit as he probably would in this country, given the allegations and everything that was against him. You can have your own personal opinion on it all and everything and that, but at the end of the day, the way that the British culture and the British way of football is, it won't accept somebody like that on a football pitch. That's just the facts of how English football is, and people make their own prejudgments and make their own, you know, opinions, and you know, they're strong by that. That's just how British culture is. But no, I think he will leave, to be honest with you. I don't know where. I'd probably take a guess that maybe he might stay in Spain, Valencia or Villarreal or something might come in for him. I don't know, but I think he's happy in Spain, to be fair.
Yeah.
I would agree with the happiness in Spain. He is happy in Spain, to be fair. And I would say this, whatever he wants to do, I would hope that that's what he gets to do. But what I would say is the reality is that if he's not sold for £40 million in the next 7 days, he will be in training come next week. And that might be bad news for some people, might upset some people, but this is reality of it all. And the other two things you got that is going to be worrying for fans is that the team wrote a letter to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos that they would like to have him back. And also Eric Ten Hag is opening to have him back reintegrated into the team. Now, the owner says to sell him, so they are definitely open for sales, and they're in talks with Napoli as we speak. Napoli is heavily interested in getting him, and Lazio as well. Those two clubs are in what I would say unofficial bidding war at the moment to get Mason Greenwood's signature. But we do know that his preference is to go back to Spain if he's not staying at Man United. So we'll see how that goes in the next few days. I think there's definitely going to be a break in development on that case. I might be one of the fans that might not be so mad at having him back, because I think in terms of his ability, he's the best winger that we have currently on the books at United. And I think that if you look at English wingers, you can't tell me that England didn't miss him at the Euros this season. So it's just one of those things. It's a tough situation, a bad blemish on his career, such a talent. And, you know, guys, I just hope that wherever he goes, he has a good time. You know what I mean? Hopefully time would heal and the public would be as, you know, aggressive towards the situation, because at the end of the day, if he moves on from Manchester United, he has a life to live. He has a family, a young family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mark, if as soon as he leaves his football club, if it is inevitable that he does leave, you probably won't even hear much about the kid anyway. So,
I mean, you won't hear much about him because he's not in England, but I would think that you will definitely be hearing about him in the Champions League and in Europe, because, like I said, like we could see it this season.
Yeah. I mean, no connection with Man United. Like they were.
Well, yeah,
it's not like he's going to be tabloided to say, oh, you know, still has a contract with United, or he's still being paid off by United. Like, there won't be those miscellaneous reports. It'll just be like his name in Manchester United won't be associated anymore, and that only strengthens probably their agreements that they have with a lot of the brands and stuff. Because we obviously, well, the one thing that Adidas had over Manchester United was they put pressure on him. I think he actually had a sponsorship deal. I think it was with Nike. They dropped him as a sponsor after the allegations had happened and everything. Adidas put pressure on Manchester United to not allow him to wear their shirt and the brand, otherwise it was going to cause problems.
Actually, Adidas are offering him a sponsorship deal as we speak, guys. So for the new season, you will be seeing Greenwood playing our new Adidas boot. So I don't think it was Adidas putting pressure on him. I think it was more likely Team Viewer was the sponsor that was putting pressure on Man United to not have Greenwood wear the kit. I think Adidas are that. Well, this is the talk right now in Germany because, as you know, Adidas is German, right? So they're offering him a contract based off of his performance last season in Spain. It's said that he's one of the top 10, players that was talked about in Spain last season. So it's definitely, developing. But whatever happens, whether it be away from United or not, we'll see a development this week. This is what the reports have been saying, and everything has inclined to that. So let's see what happens by the end of this week, because there's definitely the deadline.
Cool. Next question coming in from, let's see, it's from Cat again. Big up, Cat. The question is, it's a question for each of you regarding the coming season. Are you a glass half full or a glass half empty? Tom, are you an optimist or a pessimist when it comes to next season?
I'm more optimistic based upon the way that we've worked right now. But again, like I said, we've not signed anybody, so I'm not getting too giddy. But the sort of people that we're being linked with, the people that we've actually got in the door now in terms of the structure, I like it, but I need to see how we're going to work together and what players we are going to bring in. By the end of the summer window, I'd ideally want to see some like a bit of a plan, like 4 in, 4 out sort of solution with wages, something like that, and it's structure it out. But yeah, I'm a lot more optimistic than I have been before.
100%. Well, I know everybody knows I'm Mr. Positive on the panel, right? So I would say that I'm more of a glass half full than half empty, or 3/4 full, to be fair. But if we get, like, let's say 3 to 5 or 3 out of 5 of the signings that we've predominantly been mentioned with currently, I would say that next season would definitely have 10, 15 more points added to our final score. You know what I mean? I think, I'm not saying that those 3 players are going to be amazing, but I think having important players come in defense, in midfield, and in attack will definitely create a new vibe in Manchester United, will definitely inspire some of the players that are there before and bring competition, and they will be doing something different. They will be also trying to impress not only the fans but the coaches as well, so they will have points to prove, and so as well as the players who are already here who are trying to keep their position. So I think next season is definitely going to be a little bit more interesting. It's going to have a bit more consistency in terms of the performances. And I think we could look forward to a decent season. I think we're going to go far in the cups domestically, probably go far in Europa League. It's a different type of tournament. And Manchester United is, from ever since I knew it as a child, a cup team. We're a team that always will perform well in cups. I mean, this year we had one of those really outlandish performances in the UCL, but it's not something that always happens. We usually go past the group stage and we're on the 16th. So.
Well, for me personally, I'm either a optimist or a pessimist when it comes to this. I try to have focus on the realistic thing. I'm a realist, and for me, I know that next season, as far as I know, Ten Hag will continue his way of style of play, the 3-1-6, even though we have other people in the club saying something else, because now they're backing Ten Hag, and Ten Hag will play his philosophy. For us to improve, we need to improve the counter pressing. the counter pressing because we are high press, and it requires the players to quickly organize and win the ball back immediately after we losing the ball. And the training drills, we have to have focus on pressing drills, positioning, situational awareness, and for me, especially decision making when the players win the ball, what to do with the ball under pressure, and if we can improve this, I think we will be a much better version of a team. And of course, this fitness and stamina. We have to maintain high intensity play for 90 plus minutes. And for me, I think we look weak physical condition in the team, and we need proper training, and we need players fit. And I think with footballing people, we will be more professional with recovery protocols and nutrition plans and all of this, because Ten Hag has been alone, trying to keep hold of his players, and we know it's always a struggle when we go back and think of players like Sancho, complaining about training and stuff like that. And the recruitment and development will be better, we know for sure now with Ineos. And another thing I think we need to work on is mental resilience, because we have been letting in goals in the dying minutes of games. We have all the games that stands tipping, we lose at the end, and when the pressure gets tough, the tough gets going, we struggle. So there's a lot of things for Ten Hag to improve, but I think under this structure he will improve and things will be better. So for me, I'm yeah, you can call me an optimist then. I think we will be better because of Ten Hag will have more support from the coaches and the structure. So yeah, I think we will improve, if you can call me an optimist.
I think Rene Hack is going to be major for the mental part that you just spoke about.
Yeah. Thank you, Kat, for the question. Next question is from Wicker. It's when someone scores 3 goals, why do they call it a hat trick? Tom,
Well,
this is for you.
good, Tom.
1, 2, 3. 3.
Yeah, but why a hat? A hat trick?
Don't know, because it's magic, maybe. Don't know.
No. Let me help you out, Tom. Let me help you out, bro. Actually, it's a term that came from cricket. Back then, a bowler would bowl 3 wickets, and they would give him a hat and a glass as a trophy. So every time a bowler bowled 3 wickets in 1 over, it was called a hat trick. And that term was moved over to football, and that's how it became popular.
Fair enough.
It's actually more popular in football now than in cricket, to be fair.
Cool. Another question from Jay United. Big up, Jay. He says, so Rashford to PSG, Sancho out, Greenwood leaving, ? Who does the panel want on the wings on either side? Because we need new wingers.
Tom.
Well, I really wanted Elise before he went to Bayern. That was my God given that I would have gone for. So if I would have put him on right hand side, left hand side, I can't really think of anybody, to be honest with you.
Amad Diallo, Pilestri.
Oh well, if we're not signing anybody, then yeah, you'd probably say one of them ones. Out of Garnacho or Ahmad, they deserve to play, but I don't really think that the wide positions are maybe a priority, to be honest with you. I don't think it is. So long as they don't, so long as they don't do something stupid and sell, Rashford. If they get stupid money for Rashford, where you can replace him with a like-for-like replacement, then it's a deal worth doing. But I think buying maybe a wide player, you could do that maybe in January if you're really desperate for an attacker. But the problem with wingers is I don't think this summer, in particular, I don't think it's a summer where you're buying wide players. I don't know. There's not a lot of options. I don't think Same thing where we people say about number 9s. There's not really a lot of number 9s that have hit the ceiling at the moment that aren't either tied down or that you can actually get. And ideally, that you think is actually going to be a good player. So you're like we have done for the last couple of windows. You're just buying into the potential scheme, which is Højlund, Zirkzee, Branthwaite. This is the model of players that you're having to go for, because the proven players just, you either can't get them out of anywhere, or you're paying stupid fees to get them, and we're not doing that anymore. So this is the way that we're going to have to go. But no, if I had to pick any player outside of Man United, Elise was the one that I really wanted.
For me, I think I would love a player like Neto. I think he's brilliant on one of the wings, the one who can really challenge down, take on his man, and have a goal threat in him. So that was a player I would really love to have at the club. But for me to understand what Ten Hag is actually doing, I think he wants inverted wingers who can come in behind Højlund, because Højlund is dropping down, playing almost like the false 9. So the area up in between the center backs will be open for our wingers to invert, and we want our fullbacks to come around, and that's why I think we are linked to I would say Frimpong and Milos Kerkez. They are both bombing on and crossing fullbacks. So in a way, I think we are good with what we have at the moment, but we just need the right setup. Even Rashford could actually shine next season with the right players around, the right fullback, with the right striker, and all of this. Mark?
Well, to be fair, guys, people might be mad at me for this, but I really do hope PSG takes Rashford so we can get maybe Jeremy Bino-Gittens from Dortmund. I think he's a very good talent. He's tall, fast, strong, very good on the ball. And he can invert, but he's both-footed, so he can also put crosses in left or right foot. I think that would be a good option for the left. He's, 19 years old now. He's played more games this season than he's played last season. He's played, I think 27 games this season. He has 6 assists and I think 8 goals. I think that's a pretty good turnaround. He usually gets minutes in the last 20 minutes of the game, so I don't think it's one where he's always starting. So maybe coming to the club, he can play backup for Garnacho as well, because I think Garnacho has earned a starting position on the team. And for my next side, I don't really think that, Tom, I don't really think that wingers are a priority for United. I think we are stacked. We have at least 6 wingers who are going to remain at the club, even if we sell 2. So, in my opinion, if I had to say about the right side, bring back Voldemort. Sorry.
Bring back Voldemort.
Yeah.
Why not?
I like Neto as well, Jarvis, but if I'm going to be honest with myself, Neto and that guy are pretty much like for like. Why pay for one when you already have one?
Well, it's politics. It's a lot of emotions, and we have a big fan base.
Yeah, that's the only thing, Jarvis. So whatever Ineos decides, I think it's the right way. Let them decide. They will be responsible for whatever decision is made. And whether we fans have a disappointment or disgruntlement with whatever the decision is, at least we could blame Ineos, and we would all still be united as a fan base, because at the end of the day, we're all fans. We all want the club to do the best.
That's true, 100%. So thank you, Jay, for a brilliant question. We have, we'll see, you have 2-3 questions left. It's from Nicholas. Nicholas, they say, which signing that we have been strongly linked with would make you go, wow, in a good way, if we signed him?
Giancarlo
Ignacio.
Yeah.
The sporting fullback.
The sporting fullback. I think he comes in as a ready-made starter. He plays a high line, very good progressively. He can be a replacement for Martinez. He could play left back, and he could also play right center back as well. So I think it's like a Swiss Army knife for the defense. You can play him anywhere, and he'll be fine.
Okay, but what about this guy?
I love this guy. I love this guy.
Calafiori.
Have you been watching me talk about this guy? Every Euro show I've been doing, when we watch the Euros, I talk about this guy. I think we should drop everything that we're doing currently in this moment, go to Bologna, get this guy, and then continue dealing with the other 4 players we're talking to. Because from what I've seen from this guy, and I've been rewatching some of Bologna games this season, one a day. I'm on like game 11 right now, and he's been man of the match in almost 7 games. This guy is very, very good. He has an engine like a Ferrari mixed with a Bugatti. He's got horsepower for days, and he's got pace. I've seen this guy chase down so many strikers in the 90th minute after playing 90 minutes and catch them and tackle them. His decision making is really good. I think if we were to go in for this guy, it definitely improves us 100%. Maybe even puts us in a top 4 race next season. That's how impactful he is, and I'm not even exaggerating.
I heard that he's linked to Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think he's Ineos. He's not the Ineos type of centre back for actually for Ten Hag. If you see him, I think he plays like he's used to play in a 3-back line. So I can't see us signing him at the moment, but I agree he's a great player.
Stephanie, he was injured against Switzerland. Sorry, he didn't play. He was unavailable. But like what I could say is, Jarvis, he can play at right centre back. He can play at left centre back. He can play at left back. He's even a better left back. Like he's been playing as a centre back for the last 2 seasons before, but this season he started playing as a left back, and he was one of his best seasons.
We all know the track record of Italian defenders in the Premier League. It's not always good.
It's not always good. But you want to know something? Yeah, well, he was suspended, but he was also injured, Nicholas. So this is why I said he didn't play. I just said he didn't play because I know he was reported to be injured as well, but he also picked up a yellow card in the game, which would 2 yellow cards since in the group stage would put him on a ban as well. So but you know what, Nicholas? Like, you want a defender who is going to make that decision to take a yellow card for your team in a moment that would stop almost a certain goal. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. I think he has a very good decision making on him. So I would like to see him come to United, to be fair. And he's not that expensive as well. I think somewhere in the region of 40 million euros.
Well, he's the new hot thing coming after the Euro, so maybe his value will rise a little bit. For me, when it comes to who will give me the wow effect, when I look at this list, we have Ugarte, Zirkzee, De Ligt, João Neves, Todibo. None of this. Maybe Xavi Simons will be the best signings of this. That will be really wow, because I know he's extremely good. But none of them really excites me. It's not like we are signing, I don't know, like the big name players. But we are not at that stage, so I just have to accept it. And of course, João Neves, he looks good, promising youngster. So one of those for me.
True. I think João Neves is very doable. I think that's something we should keep in the back of our minds. We've made 2 bids, like I said before, for him. And the second bid, it took a while before they rebuffed it, which means that maybe they were considering it, and that was 68 million. So maybe this is how it will go. We sign a few of these players, you don't get that wow effect, but after the first 6 months, you'd be like, wow, we're glad we signed these guys. And you know what? I'm gonna step back and just leave it to them to make their decisions, because
I agree. I trust Ineos and the footballing people in this. You know, I'm not an expert on every league, on every player. I see some YouTube compilations or sometimes, but have you ever seen a bad player on a YouTube compilation?
Yeah, I have.
Have
You
you
have
the
Lukaku.
best of one player?
Lukaku. Even the Lukaku comp that's supposed to make him look good still show him fumbling the ball in lots of instances. So, I mean, if you look at it, there's so many. Well, the good thing about this window and the players that we have been linked to, guys, is that they're all for 30 to 50 million euros, except
Mm,
João Neves and Branthwaite, who are the most expensive players we've been linked to in terms of overall pricing. I think the rest of the players are all doable. You know what I
mm.
mean? They're all like 30 million euros, 40 million euros, 35 million euros, 40 million. Even so, it's one of those things where we have like about 150, let's just say on average, because 100 for this fiscal year, 50 from last fiscal year. Let's say you minus 10 for the deal for Dan Ashworth, right? So we have 140.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
6, 7 players because it's pounds. You know, in 140 in euros is somewhere in the region of 165.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So if you look at the math, what we're trying to do, we're trying to get in quality players in bulk.
yep.
That's how I see this window. And if we make
With
some
the resale
sales,
value, with the resale
yeah,
value on
exactly.
their first or second professional contract.
100%. And if
Mm,
you look at some of the players that possibly could leave, you can look at another 2 or 3 players coming in for them. Xavi Simmons is definitely a wow. You know what I
mm,
mean? But his deal is one of the most difficult ones because PSG doesn't want to sell him.
yeah.
So that's the biggest problem with his deal. I haven't talked about it because PSG doesn't want to sell him. They
Mm,
want to loan him. We might be interested in a loan. So it's one of those things. You know, like there's a situation with Hannibal. We don't know what we're going to do with him. He's
mm.
due to be back in training, and he did not really work out well at Sevilla. So you might see him move on to a club to make way for a player to come to United. So you never know what could happen.
Who's this player? Lena Rohades.
Lana Rhodes, that's who he's talking about there, Jarvis. I don't know if you know who she is, Jarvis, but maybe now you could actually Google him and not be worried about looking over your shoulder.
Okay.
Google and see. Pretty nice player. You know, I would say is one of those of the elite level.
Okay. Okay. Okay, okay. We have 2 questions left before we will wrap it up. Stephanie comes in with a good question here. We need 75 plus Premier League goals next season. Who gets those goals for us? Question mark. Mark, who will score our goals? Bruno, Rashford, Hoylund?
I think this season is one of those seasons you can say it's going to be a multiple of players that are going to score a lot of goals. And the only reason I'm saying this is because I felt like last season a lot of the players didn't really find that chemistry and working together until late in the end of the season. You can definitely expect Portland to score somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 goals next season,
Mm,
especially with Van Nistelrooy coming in. I think it's going to definitely improve him.
okay.
Look out for players like Kobe Mainu to score some more goals again from midfield. Bruno Fernandez, he's been in a scintillating form. You know, I think it's going to translate for him back into the Premier League as well as he's going to be fit compared to
Mm,
the last 6 months where he was niggles all about with different injuries. You know, you can also look at Rashford. Rashford had a bad season this season. As much as I want him to go, we all know one season on, one season off. The last on season he scored 40, almost 40 goals in total.
yeah.
So you could probably expect him to have a big impact next season as well. You know, we're
Mm,
not going to count out Amad Diallo. You know, he's going to get in on it. And Anthony has a point to prove. I know a lot of you wrote him off, but I'm not writing him off just yet.
no way,
He's
no
my
way.
South American brother, and I'm going to back him to the hill until at least until the January window. But guys, I'm telling you now, the guy
Come
is
on,
training hard.
Anthony.
No,
Anthony, for
no,
2 seasons, he's been doing one thing, cutting in
that's a,
and try to curl it up in the left corner.
don't worry. This
He's a
season,
one-trick pony with a spin.
I'm gonna hold that
Useless.
one, Jarvis. I'm gonna hold this L if I have to hold this L. But I'm telling you now, he's gonna be back this season better than before, and everyone is gonna love him again. I promise
Mm.
you.
Lillis comes in and say McTolster or McTominay is going to score the goals.
Well,
Can we
you
see
see this
$15 from McTominay?
McTominay, like, for Man, like this, McTominay made me lose 40 euros, bro. Like I bet money on McTominay to score the winning goals in the first two games of at least to score a goal against Germany and to score goals in this game, the game after against Hungary, and he didn't. But the entire Scottish team was not performing well, but he was one of the better players in my opinion. And I'm just worried. I'm just thinking that he may not be here next season. I'm thinking he's definitely leaving this summer.
Okay.
So we may not have a
I think he will
McTominay.
play here in his entire career and retire around 40. That's McTominay. Club legend.
Yeah, well, if he does, then it's definitely going to be McDonaldinho next season because with Rennie Hack coming in and Van Nistelrooy, I think McTominay bags gets better. I honestly believe.
I'm only joking when it comes to McTominay, but I just want to say one thing. We have talking about Ruud Van Nistelrooy coming in, and everybody talks about how he can improve Højlund, but you forget one thing: Ethan Wheatley.
No, that's what I said earlier. I said
Ruud, Ethan Wheatley, he can come in and contribute 10 goals from the bench, being an impact sub, or the other way around, Højlund being the impact sub and Ethan Wheatley even starting, because I think he's good enough, he's physical enough, I think he's ready.
I think he's ready as well. And like I said before, when Tom was here earlier mentioning how he's going to improve Zirkzee, I actually am more excited to see what happens with Ethan Wheatley and Højlund because I, for one, I'm hoping he gets a lot of game time this season because I think he's amazing. He reminds me of that Filippo Inzaghi type hunger. He's always there behind. You cannot take a break with him as a striker on the pitch. If it's one thing that guy has, is that intensity to want to score a goal. And he usually makes very good decisions, and he is a very good striker of the ball. He's very deadly from 25 meters. Anywhere in and about there, he's deadly. I think he's going to make a big impact this season. I don't want to hype him too much.
Let's just hope he will get some game time now in the beginning of the preseason before all the international players come in. And if he takes his chance, that there is a chance that he will get more game time in the season. Maybe Man United even will think that, wow, we have a gem here. Why do we even need to spend 50 million on a striker? We can just play Ethan Wheatley.
Well, I think we're going to pay. I think we want to have 3 strikers again. So I think we're definitely getting a striker. You know what I mean? The only thing for me with this statement here is that I think Ethan Wheatley is a little bit too good right now to send on loan. I think the players you want to send on loan is the ones that have the high potential, but they have not really shown it yet. So you send them on loan so they can get more game time and probably discover that, right? But I think we're going to move Charlie McNeil on. And I know that the other young striker, I forget his name, I think it's Joe Hugel. One of them, their contract ends tomorrow. And I don't think we're renewing his contract. I think he's going on a free. And so it's one of those things. And in my opinion, yeah, some players need to get a lot of game time for, to develop and thing. But I think there's some players who could develop in minutes. You know what I mean? But to be fair, Zirkzee is a bit raw himself. So I think Van Nistelrooy coming in is a huge, huge deal for United, especially with the young. We have a very young attack, Jarvis. Amad Diallo, Garnacho, even Anthony is only 23 years old. Højlund, 21. Ethan Wheatley, 18. So we have a pretty young attack. Palestri is 20. So it's like, the guys, they're all malleable still. They can still be developed and refined. So you get someone who knows that area of the pitch really well, and it's going to help them. So you have to trust in guys like Wilcox, trust in guys like Van Nistelrooy. They're coming in, they're going to be doing their job. We're going to see a lot of improvement. I can't say for sure when, but I'm definitely sure that it's going to have drastic improvements in the team. So yeah. I'm excited for these youngsters, especially
Yeah.
like there's also the youngster coming in who's
It's
also
Charlie
moving.
McNeil that's leaving. I think he's
Yeah,
out of
Charlie
contract now.
McNeil.
Yeah.
There's
So,
also Shea Lacey coming into
mm,
the squad and Joe Scanlon as well. So there's lots of options. Ethan Wheatley. And I forgot to mention, preseason starts in 13 days. So the majority of the youngsters are going to be the starting 11 for the first two preseason games. There's not going to be a youth team and a senior team. There's one team. Everyone's fighting for places, whether it is as a substitute, a squad rotational player, you know what I mean, to play in a cup. They're all fighting for positions from whoever is on that list on the plane. They're all
mm,
fighting for a position in the squad this season.
yeah, yeah. I agree. And now we come to the final question of the night. It's from the big booty Latina Hunter. And it's another question. Why is Jarvis slowly morphing into Richard Gere?
I think you should take that as a compliment because that guy,
Thank you.
it seems like he never aged for like 30 years.
Didn't he play in Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't age until maybe like 5 years ago.
Could have been worse. But when you're getting older, your hair is getting gray, some wrinkles here and there. But
Wrinkles where, Jarvis? You look,
I have some
Jarvis looks
hair.
younger than I do. Don't you think so, guys? I think he
Nah,
looks as young as I do,
you know my
to be fair.
age? In a couple of days, I'll be 47.
I'm not too young.
47.
I'm not that young. I'm just like what, 10 years your junior.
Oof. Well, thank you everybody for all the brilliant questions. VAR room. A lot of people been watching us all the time. I think we are on 97 likes. So if you haven't, hit the like so we reach 100. I have to thank Tom for coming on. Thank you for the VAR room for patiently waiting for us to come go live after the game. All the guys who are and girls in the chat, Big Booty Latina Hunter, Juddy Sport, Cat, KD, Stephanie, who else do we have here? J United, a lot of people, Lillis, always the legend. We actually have one more question left. It's from Otunba, His Royal Highness. Oh, who's that? Is that
Oh,
John
I think that's
Johnson?
Tulumba. He's asking, what about Anthony? Is he leaving or staying? Anthony is going to be staying, guys. He at least has 6 months to deliver and to prove to Ineos that he deserves to be here before they consider moving him on. And I think rightfully so. I think last season should be chalked up and chalked off the board because of the mental destabilization based on the accusations that he was under for like 9 months. I think that would throw anyone off their balance and make it hard for you to recover. So it's one of those things. I think he has a good attitude. I think he's very, very tenacious. And I think that changed the way he played last season because his normal tenacious attitude makes him look like a fighter, looks aggressive. And I think with the allegations, he doesn't want that image on him. You know what I mean? So maybe next season he comes out fighting like the Anthony that he originally is. So
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's
I
hope
actually do.
he can turn it around. Nothing will be better than our players actually succeeding. So I'm hoping, I'm cheering for him, but I don't have a lot of faith in him. I have to be honest.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's on the players now, Jarvis. Regardless whether it's Anthony, it's Rashford, it's Bruno, it's Kobe Mainu, it's Garnacho. All of these players, with the fact that Eric Ten Hag got this 2-year contract, it's now on them to perform. You know what I mean? So this is how it should be. This is what it's supposed to be, and it's back to that finally. So now I think with these guys having the pressure to perform, I think those who will perform, and those who can't make the cut, well, you know what happens to that. We got to be ruthless, like you say.
For sure, 100% preach.
If you don't mind, Jarvis, I'm going live to cover the Copa America in like 5 minutes. So if guys want to come join me, you're welcome to come by.
Cool. Who's playing?
Oh, United States is playing against Uruguay. That's the big game. That's the one I'm going to be doing. And Bolivia is taking on Panama. It's a double header. It's the last
Ugarte
group game.
playing? Ugarte playing?
Yeah, Ugarte is playing tonight. I think he's in the starting lineup. Let me just check and I'll tell you.
Okay, cool. A lot of people coming in. Hakim Halim. Thanks, Jarvis and Mark. Great show. Thank you. And
Ugarte starts alongside Valverde, and Palestri starts as well. De La Cruz is in the middle. Nunez is up front. And for United States, the notable starters are Christian Pulisic, Balogun. He scored a really great goal the last
Landon
game.
Donovan still playing?
No. Landon Donovan has retired. He's kind of banned from football.
I'm just joking. I'm just bantering. The American legend. Yeah, he was a great player. So thank you, everybody. Well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you want to see more chat from Mark, tune in to Mark's channel. And it's been a blast. Jarvis's Corner, always. I was thinking of 1 hour, 15 minutes, but now we are 2 hours, 20 minutes into the show. So it's time to say goodbye. Have a good one. And if you haven't, smash the like, subscribe, and see you on the next.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching MUFC Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.
Thanks for having me.